Hey, Chris here. I was just opening a few writing files I wanted to, I guess, think on. So basically, opening those now. And also changes to each chapter composition, character notes, miscellaneous notes, plot development notes. Like, what is this? Well, alrighty then. Like, development notes and the timeline. That's a very vague timeline, though. So settings, descriptions on each. Like, I just ate. Keep getting like gooey's in my throat. It's like sugar. Mucus and sugar. Anyway, okay. So basically, I'm looking at the plot development notes and questions I had while, I guess, writing a little bit. And I was one, why does the character dislike the planet, the Earth? And it goes into like telling history of it. And also, additions between like present and future. So it's kind of like logic. What I guess his thought might or could happen. So yeah, it was one of those, and then how do people surrounding this character know that she wanted it, or she would become a space explorer, and why not like some vendor or something of the sort, stay on the planet. So I didn't really get too much into that one, but I am going to write a note for that, which is basically to sort of explore reasons she wanted to leave and why she was so I guess or as successful as she is or was or uh, anyway, something of the sort, and actually find a reason in it, and that'd be completely accurate. What for? I'm like, I don't know. Don't want to think it at the moment. So I was able to. It's actually development miscellaneous notes. One is these are notes from actual occurrences like NASA spacewalking training, an entire underwater sort of training facility. So it's kind of embrace previous technology, I guess. And uh, cancel that. No, they're trying, but no, sorry. Okay, so we have miscellaneous notes. Yes, actually. Um, miscellaneous notes. I was gonna note. Let's see. So sort of develop. Maybe a development home. Actually. So this is the moment her normal education would have taken a turn. She was set to be everyone thought she would be a vendor, but at the same time something changed. So what is that and why did it kind of thing. But it's not like a serious like fearful question. It's kind of like they saw something because every person is sort of different and have their own sort of uniqueness. So at one point in her normal education, she took an interest in like space exploration, and then sort of started to develop from there. I think so. Kind of took a turn. They're supposed to be an elemental or an element vendor, but stuff changed. Right about here, there's gonna be a note. Actually, these are all notes. So let's see. So explore the idea. No, the ideas of development, I guess, of character development and a logic, I guess, for I guess a developmental change, I guess. Character growth. but not actually like growth. So I don't like that. It's definitely development, like psychological development, as opposed to like actual physical growth. So it was, I don't know. Kind of like to go into more of those details. And then also, after that point, that change occurs, she goes on with her life kind of thing. So it's like a realization, like not reflection, kind of like reflection. It's a little bit more of like a realization. Would have been, that's when she's like led into logic, which would have been a vendor, but life changed, or something in life, no, but the people surrounding her changed the course too. Not really. Changed her course. Changed their reaction to her. No. No. What would you say? That's like a, it would be like reaction, or yeah, it would be a reaction. Uh Reactions toward her. She didn't know. And goes on from there. I don't know. I don't really like that though. Like it's too far into it. It's like a realization, developmental change. I don't know if it's a developmental change either. So you say the logic. It's where the ideas of the, let's see, characters, how they react to that. I think it's, yeah, an exploration. So you say character trajectory, of the character, exploration of what characters, developmental change. And you go elaborations. Your education from 4 to 10. Language, less for mathematics, consumerism, and eco-science. You say, how can you do that for a 4-year-old? Language, start with language. Bam, then you go lesser mathematics. These are some of the things that I remember. Consumerism, once you know mathematics, use your knowledge of quantity and stuff like that to sort of, begin. And then eco-science, here's the world and what are you going to do with it? I don't know, it's fairly simple. Anyway, so goes on to, she had curiosity to the stars. For some reason, her attention was turning to the stars. I guess most others didn't even have that sort of, I guess, idea in mind, was that they would live on Earth as people of Earth. And then there's space travel. So she had this curiosity at a young age of the stars. And then, as any kid would, she had like questions. She'd ask her dad about it. Then, her dad, begins telling her about space, which is like, that's normal. It's normal. Anyway, so there's Australia's instructor, Gayla, and she starts noticing that she's talking about space exploration and stars and all this other stuff. And she's like, wait, you're an elemental, you're going to be an elemental vendor. I'm, attempting to sort of mold you in that direction. And then, it's a turning point in Australia's education. She's getting a series of different topics she excels with, which is like Earth history, mathematics, botanical evolution, and elements. They start molding her towards what they need for their future. So that's another, complex idea. And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. But anyway, in any event, it's nothing noteworthy. And I already know that. So 1 year's education, 1 year explorer, right? So they basically like, let's see, like 11, 12, take them to explorer camps and tram transportation, and stuff like that. All the new stuff. There's places other than home, and the place you're familiar with and stuff like that. I would say this is 10 to 15, expands 4 to 10. So you say, okay, so from 10 to 15, like teenagers, a little bit like pre-teenage to teenage. 15 and 16, coming of age type stuff, they go exploring. Anyway, so I think that would be kind of neat. And then, I don't know, there's more to it. There's her education. She returns to, education. type stuff. That's 16 and 19. And then it's history of space exploration, grade of mathematics. She spends most of her time crunching numbers. I like crunching. I'm like, yeah. Anyway, all the time. Just like all the time math. So anyway, yeah, that came from high school. Do it all the time, kind of thing. Someone had a passion and love for mathematics. I think it was one of my teachers in high school. Anyway, that I was really gonna need to have it, in life. Anyway, I didn't like math at that point. Haven't really, but anyway, it helps. Polynomials. I think that's as far as I got. Calculus, I doubt it. I don't know if I could stretch, time that far. Anyway, so Estrella's education. She exits parental influence. She goes into a university setting. She meets her instructor for the first time, which is kind of interesting because up until that point, she hasn't met her instructor. It's like as far as like physical. She's basically, taking instruction, and the instructor has a visual of her at all times, what she's looking at, and all kinds of other stuff. Anyway, so I'm not going into the technology of that, but it's lesser, I guess, important in emphasis than the actual characters and the story itself. So you go, if it's a neat visual, people let their mind just kind of roam on that because they have an understanding of technology and have seen like many sort of movies or have several visuals on what technology is all about anyway. So it's not really exploring like as in space science, but at the same time it might be parts of that. Like, I'm not sure. What I see is what I see, and that's about it. It's fiction. So, anyway, she exits her parents' home. She's off to the university, and she meets her instructor for the first time. This voice that she's heard ever since she was like 4 years old. She gets to meet Gala, and Gala doesn't really embody a gender. She's not female. He's not male. So it's a little play of like gender identity right there. But anyway, Estrella's education 20 to 22 is for her associate's degree, 2 years, and then it goes 22 to 24. She gets her master's and she wants to go. That's it. Like, she can't handle it anymore. She just wants to see. Something happens during those times, and then everyone's telling her, "Hey, yo, slow down. This is kind of like not like that though, but like you need to like, I guess, have more experience and understand, what it's all about." She's like, "I want to go. I have the knowledge. I can do this," kind of thing. And it's play on words at that point, where she has to realize that she needs simulation training because no one's ever completely ready for space. There's always something that happens, or something that doesn't happen, or something that needs to be done, or something like that. So there's completion of master's degree, which is very, 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 very simple master's. It's like future, I guess. It's more detailed than anything we've, I guess, known thus far. And that's consistent with history of education, I guess. And then you go, Estrella meets with family after obtaining her master's degree. She goes home. Instead of going on to the bachelor's and then the doctorate, she stays at master's. There's something else she doesn't need it, or something like that, and she does. It's always needed. So I don't know. You gotta add that somewhere into the story. It's like basically she leaves with a master's degree. She comes back with what? Is there a little like education on, I don't know, the moon, or some spacecraft or space station in space? Like there always is. So anyway, a dialogue between Estrella and her father about their first memory of space exploration should be formed. So you go, it's kind of like a reaffirmation. Hey, this is what you're, it's what you're molded to be, and then they're always going to understand that. And then, they're always going to be parents. But anyway, not to ever get too, I guess, angsty as well. Anyway, so, a little comedic relief at that point, or not. Anyway, she wants to meet this character, that was stationed or, like found her way to the lunar surface where there's huge colony, and she wants to meet her. They want to, like, she wants to get her career underway and just, like, explore all of that. Super excited about it. Anyway, so then there's, an attraction that forms early. She's like, I already did. And then, the other one's like, well, like, whatever, whatever. Anyway, I haven't explored that too much either. I don't know. Develop that and make some decisions. That's Yancy. And then there's a mission of any type of outward display of affection upon eternity by all other characters. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But it does at the same time, like all career-oriented, career-focused. Not going to do that. This should cause an emphasis on the character involving a sexual interaction between the two characters, a controlling mechanism for exit of that chapter back into the main storyline. So it's not really building, but just like kind of emphasis later in the story that 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 type of relationship shouldn't happen in a career type setting. And they're like, yeah, why not? Kind of thing. And it's exploring how would you how'd you say it was a benefit, or how is it detrimental, and what's going to be, I guess, growth from that realization. Anyway, so it's emphasis, and then you go Selene and Estrella are transferred to Tianci. That's much later, and I had this entire idea, I guess, about the the actual scene. It's like explore sexuality in many different settings. It was different, I guess, and I'll just leave it right there. And it's basically like no gravity. How do you do that in no gravity? Like, would it be like acrobatics or like physical prowess? So what would it be? Like, I don't know. Anyway, that's why I say it's fiction, because it's career, and I'm just like, I don't want to even think that, because Earth isn't at that point yet. So make that a realization. Like the space station, no. So anyway, that's exploring. That's exploring an idea, and I guess that's spurs, like sparring. Anyway, that's realistic, and explore that. They have this interaction in zero gravity setting. It's like, why the zero gravity setting? And it's like, I don't know, just thought it would be weird. I guess I was thinking that in terms of like filmed sexual interactions. It's weird too. I'm like, yeah, so what? Anyway, so we move on from there, and it's basically, the moon, referred to as lunar surface, very feminine, intimacy between Selene and Estrella. It just seems to fit. And then you go, it's feminine, sexual attraction, womanhood, developmental stages of love. That's like 30s, sexual maturity, or 20s, mid-20s to 30s. It's like over at 40. And then you go, then you have to work and pass on everything that you've learned to someone else. And it's like, whatever. How do you do that? Like, you just say, hey, it's out there. Go take a look at it. If not, then life was never really meaningful anyway. So just, that's, let's see, womanhood, developmental stages, love, and sexual maturity. And you go, opinion, sex is an important part of life, and everyone has a story about something. Then, they get the call from Mr. Myers, right? Mr. Myers is basically, head haunch guy. Does he haunch it? Not really. Mr. Career Oriented, what are you doing on my ship doing that? Kind of thing. And then, Selene, Selene's given a deadline. And this, like, kind of dilemma starts to form, and she's like, hey, like, are you ever really interested in me, or like, what's going on here? There's a career issue, and Mr. Myers dropped that, and what are we supposed to do now? And my entire career is beginning to make sense, but do I want to continue this career, or actively seek love while I'm pissed off at a woman that I so passionately was with? So you go, passionately how? And then, you sort of play that out, which is like, here's how, kind of thing, I guess. It wasn't just that, it was that their careers are so similar, a lot of their ideals are similar, and it's like, yeah, it's, dang, So anyway, the antagonist is basically misunderstanding, mistrust, deadlines, stuff like that, and then you go further into the idea, which is past history, which is development, and it's the first stage or second stage of development. I think it's the first. It's the mama, and then you go, no, it's both. Anyway, there's coming or leverage for a coming mission was a Selene had requested her based on the knowledge of her achievements as opposed to a dilemma. And she's like, well, and then it kind of goes further onto there, but it's dealt with differently because there's sort of like an underlying meaning, which is Mr. Myers and what's going on, that they don't know, and it's always a don't know. And you go, Mr. Myers notifies Todd Chamberlain, Chamberlain is another character. Todd Chamberlain is basically, no, Mr. Myers actually. Todd Chamberlain is like the founding guy of a space-based exploration. Todd Chamberlain. Mr. Myers is like kind of like a man that Todd Chamberlain consults. They're very communicative and very they trust each other, I guess. So it's like, don't really mess with that. It's kind of like the same meaning. They have the same sort of understanding, but it's not of them. So anyway, their intimacy is in opposition, basically, or adversity. It's like Todd Chamberlain and Mr. Myers are comrades with an objective to end Selene's career. It's basically, she's the more experienced. Why, So you go, Mr. Myers was attempting to use Australia's knowledge to form leverage for his intent, but Australia was like, questioning while she was vulnerable all this was happening and how and why. Okay, so anyway, during her confusion, she thinks the Selene's selfish, only wanted for personal gain and, all these other things which were completely untrue, to bolster her achievements, and fit her need for intimacy. And then she goes, okay, so the issue was basically intimate relationship within a career, she's new to the scene and kind of not really new at all. It's the opposite direction, which is a little confusion too. I might be able to change that a bit. So anyway, positive similarities are great qualities in an intimate relationship. Selene's career begins much like Australia's career and prior to that association. So you go, resolution is basically independence. It takes time, to get back into their career sort of mentality, and then also discover, what they really want. It's like a personal discovery. How does that involve each? So anyway, it's career and intimate relationship growth. Like if you really want it to last an entire lifetime, that would be the process that happens repeatedly until you're able to not have that process occur at all. That's based on, I think, reproduction. Let's say it's based on reproduction, It's like at some point that's not going to be necessary for, those within an ideal. It's not going to be a worry. Until fully explored, I guess. So antagonist 2, a danger in stellar space. Of course, there's always like the antagonist of danger in stellar space, right? Lack of plant life on the moon and stellar space. Okay, so wait a minute, interstellar, stellar space. That's everywhere, right? Stellar is kind of like universal. Anyway, so there's a lack of plant life on the moon, and there's a supply delay. They start to worry a little. So there's comparison, wordplay and relationships, thoughts of lack of life force, and their dilemma, meaning, loss of love, loss of career, loss of driving forces. And then you go, Selene and Australia transported to the Auntie after a deadline was given to Selene. They go out there and they're like, hey, this is our objective, how are we going to make this sort of possible? It's not growing. And then they get into a conversation, and that even is sort of subtext at some points because, we're understanding that completely. So anyway, basically they're transported there, and then they get into conversations which are like something like Celine telling Australia, hey, this has been my issue. And I read your not dissertation, what would you call it? A report. On my career basically, and this is my dilemma. I've had a few, I've been able to sort of resolve many of them, but this is the major dilemma, and it's not sort of, useful. So how do we kind of do this? Your knowledge, my knowledge. I gave you the little bit I have, and basically it's good enough, but it's lacking something. And you go, at that point, they start to start to learn more and sort of experience a bit in space. That deadline, then you go there. There's just deadline. Resolution is during that their relationship sort of the quality of the relationship increases. They get more experience, and knowledge for their dilemma, and then the last note is basically they make a discovery. Australia does, because it's part of her education that is the missing piece. Makes but without Celine's career, you have no ability to implement that. So you go, Australia, she makes a discovery. This is a piece of information that you were lacking. Celine's able to take that information and say, hey, this piece of information in my career makes this possible. They're able to successfully grow some sort of plant that's symbolic of growth on the moon. By that deadline, and then it goes further after that. But I haven't anymore, or I have not written more miscellaneous notes. A lot of visuals, so and save that. Did add a little bit to that. So miscellaneous notes. Actually, that was development notes. Miscellaneous notes. I didn't add to that. That was plot development. So yeah, it's a lot of visuals. Like it gets to that point, tsunamis and stuff like that. I was thinking more super volcanic activity, but at the same time, I'm not sure. It's a lot of visual. Especially one of my favorites is the the iconic idea of spacecraft sort of erect a few days before or a day or two before the actual launch. I don't know. That was sort of iconic. Boom, rumble, 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 steam, and it's like chemicals and stuff like that too. Heat, coolness, chemicals, and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, there's 3 pages thus far in the first chapter with some basic ideas. I don't think it's chapter 1. I think it's chapter 2 that starts the launch. Anyway, the last sentence I have in that chapter is basically every Earth departing material is expected to do well on the moon in the possession of Serene Sullivan. And then you go, possession though. I was working on that with tactic limits. It was possession of mutaplast. I don't know why that word it's like a belonging or a piece of property or something like that. It's possession, something that belongs to someone, period. And that they, there's conflict in that too. I'm like, dang. Okay, so maybe not possession in the care. I don't like the word care either because she's not of that age. So what would it be? Like in the let's say use. Celine, oh my gosh, there's the incorrect spelling again. Celine Sullivan. I changed that. Serene is someone else. Very similar, Celine and Serene. Anyway, Serene's character in Pennsylvania Roads. She's a writer in Pennsylvania Roads. And she is married too. No, that was before marriage was legalized, and she was living with Grace Reynolds, the cyclist and volleyball coach. I started writing that one 2000. The volleyball coach, which is really weird. No, because there was really freaking and we're allowed to say that not really often, but being a teenager and sort of trying to form interest, not knowing exactly how. Anyway, there's a volleyball coach who's very nice looking. Put it that way. So anyway, um, yeah, uh, that story is entirely different, and they sort of explore that, and I already have, I think, which is like the volleyball, which is like, hey, yo, like this is how it goes, but there's never really an ability to do that, and that sort of comes into the psyche or mentality of Celine, or Serene. My apologies, Serene. So yeah, back to the story. That's every Earth departing material is expected to do well on the moon. Uses Celine Sullivan. And then I was thinking the other day, I was just cracking myself up, which was about cow manure and excess cow manure and dirt. How plants are, the mass of the planet is increasing, I guess, with die off, which was funny as heck for me. The size of the planet is increasing because of die off. So why is it such a huge issue of people dig? And then furthermore, why not like create some sort of technology that's like super duper easy to get, spacecrafts into space, into the moon. You say if they can get to the moon, they can fill the entire moon with, this or that. And create their own little world out there, which isn't entirely like feasible. It's like we like Earth, and at some point we're gonna have to leave, or are we? Kind of thing. At some point they will, if we're gonna survive and live in space. So how's that possible? Like, I'm not worrying about it. So that was fun, and it's the mission tower I will depart. Oh no, it is in chapter 1. The mission tower I will depart from at dawn soars over every tree on the isle, every home. Every home is like an exclamation. She's like every home, But at the same time, I think this should be an exclamation, which is the mission tower will depart from at dawn soars over every tree on the isle, every home. And it's kind of like at some point she's going to start thinking about Earth again. But anyway, Obsidian, a transport vehicle, is attached to a few massive rockets in that tower. This night she gleams. See, it used to be black. She gleams black with spotlights, but then I had to change that to white. So I'm like, Obsidian is a very, very dark. I want to say stone or gem. Obsidian. So I'm not sure. That might be changed. Obsidian. Like something white, like I don't know. I don't like that it's a strength. Like some stone or gem that's white, but is strength. It's weird. So I know it's not obsidian. I just know that, light, when reflecting on obsidian, is like smooth obsidian. The obsidian, like, is very gleamy. Like, sort of, not glimmer, I wouldn't say glimmer. It's more like gleam. Depending on the intensity of light. And then you go, okay, I've seen images of this, spacecraft, and then you're like, some of the most, I guess, so I'm guessing actually, some of the most seen images were from what was it? It was an Explorer. Challenger. I think it was Challenger. So anyway, spotlights like, kind of projecting that anyway. So yeah, the last paragraph, this night she gleams white with spotlights. And then sort of leaves you on a piece of imagery. I'm thinking every Earth departing material is expected to do well on the moon in the use of Celine Sullivan. So that sentence prior to the mission tower will depart from at dawn, soars over every tree on the isle, every home. And then the transport vehicle name, a transport vehicle, is attached to a few massive rockets in that tower. This night she gleams white with spotlights. Leaves you on, with a little bit of an imagery from that, and like she's going to be departing from there. And then chapter 2 is basically sort of like an intercut, but it's not an intercut. It's like simultaneous, but not simultaneous. It's like this is what's happening with Estrella, and then chapter 2 is this is what's happening with Celine, if it makes any sense. So it gets even further than that. By mid-story, you're pretty much laid out into like, I don't know what's going on, you know. So it'll get easier, I guess. So yeah, it goes. I had an idea. I was discussing this with a friend not too long ago, and well, actually, it's a few years. But anyway, chapter 1 would have been my piece of writing. Chapter 2 would have been her piece of writing. Chapter 3 would have been both of us. Then it would have taken on a sort of chapter 4 would have been discussion and sort of implementation. Then it would have went back to chapter 1, 2, and an entire sort of process for that, which would have been simultaneous. Chapter 1 and 2 been completed at about the same time. Two different styles, two different characters, sort of a different style. Chapter 3 sort of melding with those, which brings the entire meaning together. But how do you experience that with someone who doesn't want to experience that? It's like crap. 3 has own style. 4 has own style. 5 has individuality. 6 has own style. Kind of friend. Me, life's a lot different. It's understanding myself, I guess. Anyway, there's in an orbit around Earth, the eternity slowly leaves the warming rays of the sun beyond the crest of Earth to be welcomed by the coolness of space. Far in the distance, the full moon sun reflection is bright. So the Antsy colony of the moon houses several of Earth's moon colonists. The web-like complex is comprised of several rectangular structures, each covered with a single spherical and slick solar panel. Each structure is attached to another by short or long corridors. And you have to say, they have to be able to repair this super fast because there's constantly junk in space that is bombarding that area. So anyway, in the central unit is a massive greenhouse filled with dying foliage. It's fiction. Some of it's meaningful, some is not. Serena is a superb botanist, yet every plant seems to dwindle in growth and falls just short of life, productive life. This orbit, the greenhouse, is quiet and empty. And almost empty. No, that's almost empty. Why? Because Serene's there. And you go, that's emphasis. Therein, slamming a clear rubber vial of seeds upon a surface. Celine. Exhales forcefully. I'm reading this Serene for some reason. Her muscles tense, her eyes downcast. She whispers, what am I doing to not get these results? What am I doing to not get results? She's like, geez, what can't, kind of, sort of, just getting confused. Exhausted, she sinks into a loose stance. She's like, I just don't know. I don't know. Kind of like, she just doesn't. Anyway, she runs a hand through her short and dense red hair. Several strands fall back against her forehead. I don't know if any of you have ever seen that, but it's like, dang. Leaving the seed vial upon the surface, she storms to a wall, placing her hand, or her fist, against a panel. So you see her fist is very, sort of lengthy and strong, and the wrist does not waver, if that makes any sense. So she fist against the wall panel, she awaits the rising panel. She's like, what a phase this has been. I can't do it right. I can't. I know what it is, but it doesn't come out. Anyway, as she presses the secondary button, the cool lighting dims and the greenhouse is left in warmth. So you go, the cool lighting dims, like white light, kind of like bluish white. So anyway, and the greenhouse is left in warmth, which is like a yellow. So you go, Serene had been battling the death of her work. She's yet found the missing answers as to the questions plants aren't growing. Similarly, her views... okay, weren't. Plants aren't. Weren't. Growing. Has not been growing, kind of thing. Similarly, her views on love have withered. She hasn't thought of it often. She's been there years, and it doesn't matter. She's single. Feeling pitiful and lonely, she makes her way to the chamber of the colony's founding father. Which is not founding father. I don't like this. Founding director. Founding something. What would he be, like, coordinator? Founding coordinator. We'll call him a coordinator. I like the idea of father. I'm like, but it makes sense. Anyway, the slight tap of her fingertips against the metal panel, it's kind of like a pinky to index. I don't know. Vertically upward, I know, the panel rises to reveal a tall man with slippery and thin hair. Silvery and thin hair, slippery. Yeah, I think it's time to try to understand. He's an older guy. And no. Well, hello there, Miss Sullivan. What can I help you with? And I was like, what could I help you with? I don't know. Like I don't. See, and she doesn't have a last name. I changed this. So we're not going to go last name at eternity, which is kind of weird, right? So you're just found missing answers as the question plants weren't growing. Similar views on love have withered. Feeling pitiful and lonely, she makes her way to the chamber of the colony's founding coordinator. With a slight tap of her fingertips against the metal panel, the panel slides vertically upwards to reveal a tall man with silvery and thin hair. And then he's like, well, I can't do it. Well, hello, Miss Sullivan. What can I help you with? No, see, it doesn't make sense. It's like freaking Butler. I'm like, ugh. Anyway, Celine exhales. Mr. Myers, I'd like to take leave for a face to meet Celine. Jeez, I had so many changes I didn't change chapter 2 into Eternity. I believe with her help I can begin to prepare the materials upon eternity for forge growth here. She's like, he's like, mission granted, you know, and then as she's walking away, he shakes his head like, whatever. It makes sense though, right? Mission granted. Will that be all, miss? And then she's like, yes, sir. It would be kind of neat right here, like in a visual, if he looks at his watch and he's like, I'll see you in one phase. You know, like one phase. You know the nautical watches, one phase. Moons, anyway. So, Serene whimpers, thank you, sir. As the sun makes its arrival to the peak of the main thrust tank and descends the metal frame, revealing the spacecraft, the occupants of Obsidian are belted in and running tests. So you go strapped in or belted in. I like belted. Or fastened. Fastened and running tests. I'm not sure. Fastened. I don't like it. Play on words. Anyway, Stray's eyes search the blinking lights of the cabin. There's sort of like a pulse. It's like a red pulse. But very, very subtle. It's not like overpowering. Burn, burn, burn kind of light. You know? Anyway, it's blinking. Blinking lights. And it's kind of more like a pulse. And not as noticeable. But anyway, she searches those. And she's like, The words are loud and echo through the long cabin. T-minus 10 minutes, and then it goes on. You know, she's meeting some of the other occupants of the cabin, and you know, play on what what it would be like, I guess. And yeah, Disney and you know, Mission to Mars type stuff. Anyway, it was fun. She sits in her seat, her long black hair shimmering in the light of an overhead monitor, a pixelated screen ticking down each millisecond into launch. Slow classical music seems to be calming her nerves. Okay, so Australia's sole purpose would be to deliver reports of botanical analysis and oxygen production statistics to the lead advisor. So he's not an advisor. Todd Chamberlain. I gotta get those two characters realized because it's like, who? What? Who? I don't know. You know, kind of thing. Todd Chamberlain. He is statistics to the lead representative. Or no, what would you call him? To the lead what? Technician? No. Yeah. He supervises. He supervises the Mr. Myers. He supervises Mr. Myers. He's the lead. Lead what? Lead. I don't even know. I'm like lead program, head of program. Todd Chamberlain of the Eternity Space Program for consideration of transfer to the ANSI. For consideration of transfers to the ANSI. There's additions here. Haven't completed it. Young slender woman, no more than 25. Here's VH peeks around a gap separating the pilot's chamber from the passenger holding cabin. She clears her throat. Excuse me. Yeah, there's a visual, but it's not mine at that point. You know, like all that easy way of saying excuse me, it's that. It's cloudy. Okay, so anyway, startled, Australia responds, sure, right? At that point, it's basically that she was, you know, sort of there for a little time by herself, you know, sort of getting to know her surroundings. Not completely, though. She does for, like, freaking hours, but anyway. So he goes, sure. And she's like, this is Maxine. I don't know what she has, you know, her purpose in the story, but it's just play, basically. It's, hello, my name's Max. Maxine, actually. She's like, Australia. And then her last name, I have not figured that out yet. I think I'm just going to go first name basis with this character. And you go, gentle handshake is shared. Max stuffs her neoprene bag into a compartment above the seat beyond Australia. Her suit is tight and form-fitting, not budging, as she softly sits onto the seat. She pulls a strap over her shoulder and across her abdomen. It's like sort of stepwise, like steps, like not steps, but like each sort of action in an overall visual. So you go, Estrella, I'm with engineering. I can't wait to get to eternity, you. And then she's like tightens the strap across her suit, you know, botanical analysis. And then she's like, is this your first time going out? I'm like, what the? Yeah. Yes, first time up. And then she's like, nervous, you know, or something like that. And then she's like, a little. This was originally a male character, I think. Max was a male character originally, but then that was changed. Engineering. I was thinking careers. Why can't females do it? You know, she's able to. It's lifting. Which is kind of weird because I've seen several women twice the size of men at gyms, which is really weird. I was twice the size of those women, but not muscly. Anyway, so you go a little. All right, you know, Mr. Man. She was twice his size too. Okay. Then they have months of battling to see who can get bigger within that time. Anyway, that's fun stuff too. T-5. A loud spout-like hiss interrupts as Australia's grip tightens on the straps. A grin forms at Max's lips. Anyway, so this is goes on further. Woohoo! You're gonna love this. You know, she's like screaming. That's Max. Max is very, 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 very lesbian, teetering on transitioning. She's Max. Woohoo! You're gonna love this. You know, kind of thing. And then Australia's pulse pounds. She's like, "What the hell is your problem, woman?" You know, kind of thing. T-1 minute. She's like, okay, this is going to be my first time, you know, kind of remember what I've learned. You know, this shit can knock me out. It wouldn't be very beneficial. My head would go to and fro and I would not live, you know. But anyway, the lights and music cut out, you know, they're just kind of strapped in, blah, 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 blah. Max looks to Australia, her skin's flesh. Australia's skin's flesh and her eyes are closed. T-minus 10 seconds and then the countdown to 3. Loud roar becomes thunderous. 2, we'll go for launch, and then they go launch. You know, that's ever going to change. Has it ever? You know, and then they launch. Now, opening her eyes, Australia notices a heaviness about her chest and her shoulders. And the only way I can describe this is if you've ever been on a like an amusement park ride that spins. Have you ever been on an amusement park ride that spins? You get really, really super heavy, and it's almost like a force where it's very, very difficult to move at all. Breathe. Somewhat. You have to get like really, really sort of compressed in self and realize, hey, you know, if I breathe beyond this amount, you know, it could kill me. See, I take it to limits because it's only an amusement park ride and it's not going to, you know, but I take it to that extreme. So there's Max, screams laboriously, woo, you know, she's able to. As obsidian ascends the atmosphere, the pressure surrounding and inside the cabin causes the whole protected end to creak and groan. Australia closed her eyes and tick, but I like tick in time, so I didn't add that. So anyway, Australia closes her eyes and leans into the seat. She thinks the heaviness is an exaggeration, the density of deep diving. She's like, she goes into her realization that, hey, I've been trained for this kind of thing. A loud clicking noise and the thunderous hiss of burning fuel subsides. Obsidian rises as the downward force very slowly releases its grip on her throat and sends her balancing. So at that point, what's it like? Do you get your heartbeat? Do you feel your heartbeat? Like, is it easier to breathe? Is it more difficult to breathe? And it's sort of calming. Sort of regain yourself, kind of like after a workout. So I do question that. And then I'm upward and downward against the strap. She fumbles to gain control of herself in the lack of gravity. Pressing against the harness strap securing her, she pulls herself downward and say, looking at Max with a grin. It's not meant to be sexual, but it's kind of. Like, seriously, for some reason. Anyway, our ascent was successful. Within minutes, we should be docking with eternity. Please remain. And then it's like, that's all they have to say. Like, physically, remain. Drearily dazing to her personal atrium. What the hell is that? Selene gathers herself at a smooth, white surface dining table in her quarters. A white mug at the edge of the surface contains a dark coffee. A loud intercom buzzes. Miss Sullivan, your shuttle is awaiting in Bay 2. Or, I can't do it. Anyway, so it's annoying and monotone, but I don't think it's quite monotone. Miss Sullivan, your shuttle's waiting in Bay 2. She's like, thanks, Roger. And I thought that was funny as heck, because there's like Roger, Roger that, or, it's accurate, or Roger is accurate. And then you go, Selene jumps to her feet, narrowly missing the cup of coffee on the table. I'll be there in 5 minutes, I'm running. And then, no hurry, Miss Sullivan. And so they're kind of like, annoyed with her, like her food's gonna be gone. This is gonna be an entire, like, catastrophe, and, it's not gonna happen out here. We're never gonna get out, And Miss Sullivan's like, no, I'll be there in 5 minutes, I'm running. And it goes back. Anyway, so Selene rushes toward an upward sliding panel. See this upward slidings? Toward an upward sliding panel, lifting a duffel bag off a smooth white love seat. So it's kind of by the door for some reason. As she passes the entry, she looks back and blows a kiss at her quarters. She's all like lame. She's pitiful and she knows it. Jogging along a corridor leading to Bay 2, Selene passes Mr. Myers. He yells quickly in her direction, have a good time, will you, child? And then she says loudly over her shoulder, wish I could, sir. Anyway, so that's me. She's like, wish I could, sir. And then she's like, out of frame. So, sort of like, comes around to the front. Yes, I do have visuals on these, and they are that type, but this is actually a manuscript, so I can't get that into it. There's a picking up the pace. I see like a frontal view or some sort of V angle, like off to the left or right. So she's jogging along. I don't like that because it would probably be disorienting. So head on, sort of a little ways away. You see her knees kind of, get into it. So you pick up the pace. She jogs into Bay 2. Serene gets a running start onto the ramp, the rear shuttle. Into the cockpit she jogs, plopping down onto a seat. Seated at the helm of Quaint Shuttle is a very studious pilot, Jeff. Jeff knows Roger somehow. Anyway, he's a very muscular man with slim eyelids, green irises, and black wavy hair. Or wavy black hair. Eternity-bound Jeff. Like, I can't do it right. Like, it's in my brain, but I can't do it. It's, like, up to other people. It's, like, weird. Like a visual, it's weird, but there's not other people, if that makes any sense. So, Eternity-bound Jeff, awesome, let's get going. And then, as the thrusters zoom Jeff and Selene into open space, Obsidian thrusters bounce left to right near the Eternity space station. They're trying to kind of, it's not really a bounce either, it's like a, it's not a bounce. Let's say activate left to right nearing the Eternity space station. So they're trying to, what that word be? Operate. They're trying to like bring the entire spacecraft to a point where it can like be sealed to a larger sort of construct. So I forget, it's an operation, but it's not it's like a controlled movement. I forget what the word is to describe it. Anyway, so it's Stray's playfulness with floating is halted by the activation of an intercom. We're now talking with eternity. So you go, yes, actually, it is sometimes. Get serious with it. The space vehicle takes its place in a cavernous bay with little light rays projecting into darkness surrounding. Initiating seal, and then they go into like a little sealing type thing. There's a loud metallic like thud sound of vacuum suction. So it wouldn't be only a suction, it would be vacuum like suction and sort of like a compression maybe, I'm not sure. Would it be compression though? So yeah, initiating false gravity. So that's not possible yet. They don't do false gravity yet. So there's as Stray's body comes to rest in the seat, prepare for compartment release, and then they're like, okay, once the compartment is, I guess, secured, they'll open it for the occupants. And you go, panel sealing the pilot's chamber opens as Maxine quickly releases straps. Wow, we're here! She's like all crazy about it. I'm like, geez, what the hell? She's been up quite a few times, and it's like she's kind of used to it. She knows what to expect. She recovers twice as fast. Australia chokes. It was nice meeting you, right? And then she's like, likewise, I'll see you later, kind of thing. Anyway, she goes toward the exit with a grin up on her lips, and Australia sluggishly follows suit, finding the entire crew making haste to unseal the panel to lobby the eternity. As the panel unseals, Australia's eyes go wide. I'm like, dang, that's kind of like different ideas. So it's basically, it goes from like super heavy force to whoa, I can't really control myself, my muscles are so weak to like, seal again. So it's like, I'm very sluggish. She'll recover, but it'll take a little time. It's freaking hilarious. I don't know. So anyway, like I can understand it somehow. Anyway, it has to be fast recovery, right? Anywho. I'm gonna close that, and that's basically all I got for right now. I haven't written more on it. That one, or Tactic Limits, or Pennsylvania Roads, or any of those. I think the most lengthy is like 100,000, which I've named like 50 times. Now, probably less than that, maybe like 10 at the most. I can't figure out the years for that one. Like logic, realistic idea of years. With information that I've read that could be entirely untrue, which is like theory. So I'm like, crap again. I'll just leave that one the way it is. I know how I want it to look, but it's not in the right setting. And future Earth, there is only desert and there is only forest. If you cannot handle that, leave, So I haven't really got into that idea too much. That one's the closest to being complete, like, as possible. But there's so many more ideas that need to go into that one, it's not even funny. The page count's not going to matter in that sense. The visuals are long, I guess, for the recommended format, which is like what every page is like certain time or something, 30 seconds or a minute or two or something like that. I don't know. That one's close to 100 pages and not completely complete. And then there's Tactic Limits, which is like a total of 6 or 8, an entire idea. And then there's this Jot idea that's kind of just developing all of them, actually. And then, what is it, 4 Seasons? 4 Seasons kind of neat. Same redhead. Like, I don't know who the redhead is, but there's this chick with red hair. And that this person, I don't know. This person, like, the same visual over, like, more repeated. The same visual. Like, 3 stories that are written. No, I've never seen it, though. She's, like, tall, short red hair. She's like, I don't know. Anyway. So, there's 4 Seasons, Robin. There is Serene from the story that I was just reading part of and discussing. And then I know there's one more, same redhead. I want to say it's like 100,000. I want to say it's like Raisha, but I'm not sure. It's several. It's like red hair, red hair, red hair, red hair. God, it's red hair, you know? I'm tired of red hair. No. it's frustration. I don't like frustration. I'm like, that's it. Thank you for your time, and I don't know, make more of these later. Edit more of these together later. This will be an A-log on YouTube. Thanks for listening.